Whenever you're ready, Carol.
I know, I'm waiting for the thing to come up.
Great, yeah. Favorite there.
Okay.
You good?
Yep.
Good evening. It being 7 o'clock, I'm going to open the meeting with a pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I don't have any announcements. Does anybody have any announcements?
Oh, sorry, reading the minutes, sorry.
All right, okay.
Announcements.
First thing up, approval of minutes from 0905.
Motion to approve the September 5th town council meeting.
Oh,
Written.
oh, so.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No department head reports. Old business. Receive recommended wording for the amendment to the town code relating to parking at Secana Point. Consider scheduling a public hearing. Continue to October 10th, 2024.
That's because the three that were charged with writing the ordinance draft hadn't had an opportunity to get together, but we will have it for you October 10th.
How about a motion?
Motion to move it till October 10th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Receive recommendation for the appointment of John Sweeney to the pension committee to fill the unexpired term of Rob Mayer.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Acknowledge a vote of the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust that the application from Secana Vineyards was consistent with the terms, conditions, and provisions of the deed to development rights held by the trust. Verbal receipt. This is a verbal receipt. Formal documentation to be received after agenda posters. You guys have the in your packet.
They did
Motion,
supply it to us.
motion to place it on file.
Second.
That appropriate?
Yeah, you can place that one on file. You'll need more with the next one.
The next one we have to take a vote on. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Ratify the actions of the council president to allow Secana Vineyard to change the hours of entertainment on September 21st from 1 to 4 p.m. to 12 to 3 p.m. due to an unanticipated need of musicians. It was noted that if the council did not ratify, the music will only take place from 1 to 3 p.m.
Motion to ratify the town council's president to allow Secana Vineyards to change the hours of entertainment.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion of a sign ordinance, specifically section 14-7 of the zoning ordinance. Patrick, I believe you have something on this?
Yes, had a couple of people that wanted to speak tonight. One couldn't make it, Marjorie O'Toole. I'm gonna read her letter. She asked me to. And Jason Birch is here to speak on it. Jason, would you like to lead off and then I'll read Marjorie's letter and then we can get into it? But anybody else who would like to speak?
My name is Jason Burchard. I've been Little Compton's tree warden for the past 10 years. Additionally, I worked for the previous tree warden for 14 years. I thank the members of the council and every taxpayer in town for that opportunity. Whether we are called out by dispatch at 2 a.m. or plan a day of maintenance on town trees, we always arrive at a road shoulder to work. We need to have as much room as possible on the side of the road for safety reasons. The more shoulder we have to work with, the less the crew has to be working near moving traffic. This is true for any trade that uses trailers or multiple vehicles for temporary shoulder parking. When we are at a nighttime storm situation and rain and wood is falling all around us, we have enough to worry about. Anything private on the shared road shoulder that can damage anyone's equipment, tires, or crew should not be allowed. Sometimes there are efforts to claim the shoulder other than political signs. Some examples are unmaintained private plantings, stones, personal agenda signs, wooden and fiberglass stakes, rows of logs, and signs nailed into town and state trees with unnecessarily large hardware. It is as simple as ownership. I believe that most of the good folks of Little Compton are not aware that they do not own the land that their mailbox is on, even if they mow it. Maybe this is a good place to start. Many local people that I have spoken to about political signs on town and state land were very responsive and have moved their signs to their side of the stone wall or property line. Although I did receive a text a few days ago from one of the people asking if it was okay since now everybody else was doing it. Warren's Point Road. Warren's Point is part road, part walking path, and part billboard. All of the billboards are on town land, and anyone who has driven down that road in the summertime knows that it is an obstacle course. All traffic requires that space to pull off or move right in case of an emergency. That is why the road shoulder is there. To use it for anything less is dangerous. The intersection of Colebrook Road and Long Highway does not need any more distractions from political signs. We have close calls there often enough with cars pulling in front of oncoming Long Highway traffic at the last minute. The road and the road shoulder are designed for travel. I am beginning to talk about the road signs now for a few reasons. One is that November is right around the corner, and I don't see folks getting any less opinionated. The other is that over the past 24 years, I have watched the shared road shoulder shrink from invasive brush and private encroachment, and I believe that this space benefits everybody. I hope that the council will consider educating the public and enforcing when necessary. Thank you.
Thanks.
Another comment you want to read?
Vice Chairman, I have another, Marjorie Poole asked me to read this in her absence. It's brief. She says, I have some concerns, thoughts on the sign situation in town as it is now and on any changes. There are many opinions, both personally and as the director of a local nonprofit that relies on signs for marketing purposes. Number one, I like to continue to have the privilege to continue to put temporary street signs in various places around the town to advertise for events. That being said, this summer, when I put up the Family Day sign, I was heartsick over the absurd number of signs clustered on Pikes Peak. I felt bad adding our signs to the visual clutter. Our center of town should not look like that. I'd like there to be a rule that only nonprofit organizations can put up signs on town property. There's absolutely no reason for power washing signs or e-bake signs. Profit business to be able to advertise on town property, especially since those signs are not related to a certain event, but are just left up indefinitely. The same goes for political signs. No political signs on town property. I'd like nonprofits to only be able to keep their signs up for a short period of time. I would say 2 weeks. I think that Caitlin Fantasy event is an excellent cause. Those signs were up for over 2 months. This is not necessary. Pickleball is similar. It is just too long. I also think it makes sense to limit the number of signs. I think signs must be taken down within 3 days of an event. That should be fine. And that was all that she had, and she said, thank you. So is there anyone else who would like to speak on signs? So the first thing I'd like to do is, and I talked to the solicitor today, thank you for taking my call. It's just to make a few things clear. State law concerning signs on state property. You can't put signs on state property without the state giving you permission. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Town property, you can't put signs on town property unless you have the town's permission to do so.
Actually, the town council, the policy that you passed in June is what regulates this.
Okay.
You
So,
need town council permission.
right.
Put anything on town property.
Right. So let's just be clear, easy about that. If you get into signs on people's personal house, that's different. They can put what they want. I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole on their lawn, and we can get into that. There's no state law.
That's correct, yes.
I believe you're restricted on the size of your sign, even if you put it on your house.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with sizes and all that. I'm trying to keep it brief tonight. So what I would do is, I guess I would first start with Jason. There's 3 things I picked out of your, what you just said. The shoulder of the road. So I kind of want to discuss a shoulder of a road. And the second thing I want to talk about, is these hindrance that you have, that you talk about planting stones, personal agenda signs, wooden and fiberglass stakes, rows of logs, signs nailed into town trees that, you know, can cause a problem for you when you're doing something and getting trees out of the way. So we can discuss that. And then you say that people may not know that they do not own the land their mailbox is on. So let's discuss those three things. And I just want to get your opinion on those three things. You want me to start with discuss the shoulder of the road?
Yeah, I understand what a shoulder of a road is, but the way is for the state. They have highway plats.
That you can't hear?
Nope. Talking to them. Hi.
Okay,
Thank you.
let me drop back.
You hear me?
Oh, yeah. Well, you're talking to me.
Speaker's right in front of you.
It's difficult because I gotta,
Kind of move to figure out where I should sit to hear y'all.
understood, I gotta talk to you, but I also gotta let the clients know what I'm saying too.
Tony, there's
Let me bring my voice up.
The microphone right in front of you, so if you just look forward, you don't need to pull that closer to you because.
Don't get to look at the buddy.
You can look at someone if you want.
Well, if I look at this, I'm looking right at Carol.
That's fine. It'll pick you up.
Okay, I know that the term shoulder of a road is something that is known, but it really goes on where the right of way is. Now, for a state road, there's a state highway plat. Usually there's state highway bounds, which will tell you where the edge of right of way is. Now, anything that goes into a right of way, sign, you can't do that under section 11-22-2, but oftentimes there will be a stone wall or some type of other structure that goes on state property. That's not something that's allowable. And even if it's been there for a long time, the one thing that you can't do is adversely possess property owned by a governmental entity. So that's the first thing. The state has in some instances in other communities, I don't know if they've done it down here, but they've allowed either signs for businesses or other structures on state property by way of an easement. That's what you have to apply to the State Properties Commission for that. Locally, the rules are the same. You can't have anything on town property. You can't adversely possess it. The town would have to give permission for any structure or anything of that nature on it. That doesn't go for signs. Your sign policy is actually very strict on that. Can't have political signs on town property. That's considered, because anything on town property is considered governmental speech, that's not appropriate.
So the second thing was the hindrances that our tree wardens come across, stakes and logs and things that are inhibiting him from doing this job properly. What do you say to that?
Well, if it's a state road, he's got to contact DOT. If it's a town road, he's got to contact the DPW director or the town administrator.
If he finds that they shouldn't be there, they'll have to be removed.
Correct, yes.
And how about do not own the land where your mailbox is? Is that more gray area or?
Well, the entire area is gray, and I'm going to tell you why. One thing I don't know is how many of your town roads have been accepted by the town. I'm not sure about that, but that plays into the mailbox issue.
And some of our roads are been there forever and they're not the right width. So the mailbox may or may not be on town property. It may be on their own property because they own right up to the edge of the road. But in most cases that you take that center line, you go out 20 feet either way to get your 40 feet. That means your mailbox. Wilbur's store, the cashier in the front is on the state road.
Oh, boy.
The building. Adamsville is the same way.
Wow.
Again, they're not adverse possession. They know they don't own it, but the town still taxes them and they still keep their building there.
Yeah, we'll have to take those two under advisement.
Cut that from the tape. Yeah. Jason, is there anything you want to add or any questions you have about what you?
I have done some research in the past trying to figure out property lines and exactly who owns a tree in a particular situation. And it is very easy for a homeowner to go in and look at the plot and lot maps and get the total measurement of the width of the road and the width of the right of way and measure off the center line. which is what I've done in the past. The roads in Little Compton are all over the place. Willow Avenue is a great example, sometimes 2 feet, sometimes 22 feet. But 9 times out of 10, it's all a stone wall. So if there's a space in between 2 stone walls, I've always found that that space in between also follows the property line of the properties on both sides with the stone walls.
I know from my years on the planning board that if the stone wall is a property line between 2 adjacent properties, then it's owned by both properties. Does that hold true for state and town properties?
It does.
What's the dividing line between the owner and the state or town?
It does. The rule in Rhode Island is the stone wall is owned at the center line. So property owners, if a stone wall is the property line, half is owned, as you said, half is owned by each property owner. In Massachusetts, it's different. It goes to the face wall, but in Rhode Island, down the middle.
All right, so one thing that happened here was this went to the planning board for review. There was a confusion. The planning board was holding an early meeting and everybody showed up for the regular meeting time, so they didn't get a chance to get an input.
Yeah, so they're here today to speak.
So that's why you guys are here today.
Right. So if I could, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak. I do want to take some points out of Marjorie's letter. And if we decide to have a unanimous vote, send it down to the planning board and see if, with their charges to see if things apply to the town comprehensive plan. That's what they do. So I have 4 things that I picked out of Marjorie's letter. I'm going to make a motion for that and to send down to the planning board for their review and see if it adheres or doesn't adhere to the town comprehensive plan.
Why don't you just send the whole letter? Don't pick the 4.
Well, there's some things that signs on Pikes, I can send the whole letter. They already have the whole letter. But I'm gonna make a motion here with the council for 4 specific things. They already have the letter. They have the letter.
I thought the planning board already, did the planning board discuss this?
Yes, they voted on it.
Yes.
Yes,
How did they vote on it?
it's right here.
They voted for no change.
Yes.
They voted right here.
Okay, so they've already voted for no change.
Yep.
So they've already discussed this, felt that it wasn't worthy of,
They had the letter, Marjorie's letter didn't get to them before the meeting.
do you think that's gonna make a change to that?
I don't know. We'll find out. Depending on how we vote. So I'll make a motion to send to the planning board 4 specific things for their recommendation on how it complies to the town comprehensive plan. 1 is, can only nonprofit organizations put up signs on town property? Can nonprofits only be able to keep their signs up for 2 weeks? Can Little Compton limit the number of signs? And can signs be taken down within 3 days after an event? Those 4 specific points. So I'll make that motion.
Can there be a rider on that your display regulations go along with it, display policy?
And the display policy goes along with it. Thank you.
So this is for the planning board to consider this, but it's not to necessarily change their vote. It's if they decide they want to look into it further.
Well, on their vote, I don't see them saying if it, complies with the town comprehensive plan. They can do whatever they want. We'll see if the motion passes. I made them.
Second the motion.
If I may,
Sure, we're in discussion.
for the fact that some signs are already illegally placed, then we still have to wait for the planning board, even if they're illegal.
Well, I know that maybe the town administrator may have something he may want to discuss tonight, something you're going to release tomorrow.
What I'm releasing to you is just for the candidates to canvass at the campaign at the transfer station. So a letter's going out to all of the candidates and they'll be determined, they will be assigned an area at the transfer station, which will be at the entrance. There's the triangle, the grass triangle there. That's what they'll be limited to. But that's for the candidates only. So I'm not addressing signage anywhere else.
I understand.
So before this gets really out of control, you have a sign that's already you feel is
I don't want to have to enforce, and I don't think I should have. I think it's a town.
The building official is not gonna ride around town looking for illegal signs. I mean, if he sees one, I'm sure he'll bring it up. But if he's not noticed about it and it's there and someone's upset about it and they don't say anything, then there's no action that can be taken to get taken down until he's notified. So I'm not trying to turn you into the sign police.
I'd rather not.
I would say that it's a good point that our building inspector's busy and he's got more important things to do. I agree. But there are other people, if he's too busy, we can always discuss maybe someone else doing it. You got a DPW director. You have people that work at the transfer station. You have people that drive around town, it can't be ignored. I mean, there's a lot of things we'd like to ignore, but you can't,
It's also polarizing. I'd be very cautious about pulling somebody's sign because they might take that as
sure.
whether that's the case or not.
Right.
And I think that the law is the law and
Okay, but that's not part of our motion. So the motion is made and seconded. Is there any more discussion? You ready to vote?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Any nays?
they've already decided that they did.
This isn't for them to take another vote. This is just for them to review this and see if it complies with the comprehensive plan. That's the way I see the motion.
Yeah, you see exactly correct.
All right, moving on.
Just for clarification, it's 3 in favor and 1 against.
Yes.
I just want to say, Jason, thanks for the work you do. I hope this makes it safer for you out there and your guys. And that's what we want to make sure you're safe. Yeah.
All right, new business number 1, presentation to be given by Bart Fromuth. My name's Golem Beskis, CEO of Freedom Energy Logistics, presenting the benefits of a community choice aggregation.
Sit right here.
Stand at the podium, there's a speaker there. Microphone rather.
Well, I just lost my input, so bear with me. Is it doing that? Because I told it to wait. Okay.
Thank you very much to the town council here in Compton for having us tonight. I'm joined by my colleague Stuart Ormsby from Colonial Power Group, and together we're here to talk to Little Compton tonight about community choice aggregation, which is somewhat new opportunity here in the state of Rhode Island, passed by the legislature about a year and a half ago. You can click over to the next slide.
The client out loud. Okay, let's try this.
I can go through and then catch up in a second, but
There you go.
so this is a little background about our company. So we've banded together to offer this product, and we offer it in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and now Rhode Island. Together we serve about 120 communities in the 3 states. We just signed our first Rhode Island community earlier this year. The town of Westerly has joined the program. And the concept behind the program is to allow communities to band together with their residents to enjoy the benefits of electricity choice that businesses have been enjoying now for about 20 years here in the state of Rhode Island. So whether you're talking about the city of Providence or you're talking about Hasbro, the hospital, they've all been buying their electricity competitively for some time, and residents have that opportunity too. But now with community choice aggregation, the legislature has authorized town councils, select boards, city councils to have an affirmative vote to band their residents together that are buying from Rhode Island Energy and create a buying collective. And so I believe there's about 13 communities so far that are doing this in the state of Rhode Island. As I mentioned before, we have about 120 that are under current management, including the city of Boston, which is one of our clients. So you go to the next slide. It's just a quick overview of some of our clients as of earlier this year. You'll see some highlighted names there for some of the larger communities. So again, what is community choice aggregation? So it seeks at its core to provide electricity choice, meaningful electricity choice to the small commercial and residential marketplace. So your homeowners here in town, your small businesses, allowing them to save against the Rhode Island energy rates through a buying collective. If you've been paying attention to your bills at home, you've seen that Rhode Island Energy has had a lot of fluctuation the last few years, going from 10 cents a kilowatt hour to 17 cents a kilowatt hour, back down to 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And there's a lot of volatility in the marketplace right now. So one of the things that this program does, in addition to savings, is create some long-term budget certainty for your residents. Some of you might be buying for your homes already with a third-party supply company like Direct Energy or Nextera. One of the things that this program also helps us implement is there's no protections for you as the consumer at your home when you're buying through those third-party suppliers. So you might get something in the mail. It says sign up now, get a 6-month rate. We're below Rhode Island Energy and we'll throw a gift card at you. The 6 months come and go. You're not at home, not paying attention to the bill. The next thing you come back and next month it might have doubled because you're in an out of contract or holdover rate. So one of the things that our program does is it insulates your residents from having to deal with scenarios like that. There is no out of contract holdover rate. What we do is Stuart and myself, we put the town's electricity load out to bid with some of the major suppliers. We collect the bids. We work with you on your electricity supply contract for the town, and we negotiate strong contracts and strong rates. So you might decide to go for a year, 2 years, 3 years. But you as the town council have the authority to do that for your residents. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this is an opt-out program. So what that means is anybody that's with Rhode Island Energy for their standard offer service, their electricity service at their home, we sent a notification once you've decided to move forward with a rate, and they'll have 30 days to make a decision to either stay with the Little Compton program or to remain with the utility. But the good news is they can come and go as they please. So if they're not home when they get the notice, they're in Florida, they come back from vacation, they've missed that, they can leave at any time. There's no early termination fee. And the way I want you to think about this is that Little Compton's community choice aggregation plan becomes the default provider for the community. So right now, Rhode Island Energy is the default provider. So when someone moves to Little Compton, they automatically get put on Rhode Island Energy's default service plan. This would change that. And so if Little Compton wanted to set up a plan that maximizes savings, you have the ability to do that. Or if you wanted to have renewable inclusion in your rate and pay slightly higher, but for more renewable electricity, that's an option the town council has. Nothing changes in terms of Rhode Island Energy coming out to fix your lines if the power goes out. You're still going to get your electricity rate on your Rhode Island Energy invoice. The only thing that changes is the power rate itself. So it's pretty turnkey from a behavioral standpoint. Nothing changes for the homeowner or the small business owner. So again, just kind of an overview here. It gives meaningful choice to a marketplace right now. And about 90% of large commercial customers buy from someone besides Rhode Island Energy, but only about 20% of homeowners buy from someone besides Rhode Island Energy. And that's because they don't really have meaningful choice, meaningful savings, meaningful option. And that's why the legislature passed this law to say, well, what if we let all of our residents band together and have the size of a large commercial or industrial property? And that's really the point behind the marketplace they've created. Leverage, price stability. So customer service issues, again, just to make sure I'm clear on this, if there's a power outage or anything happens with your actual power account, you still call Rhode Island Energy. They still manage your meter. Nothing's going to change just because you're buying through this program. The only thing that changes is hopefully a lower power rate for your residents and some meaningful savings there. Next slide, please. So in order to put a plan forward, you have to essentially meet some criteria that are set forth by the state. The state lists that criteria through the regulations, and you'd hire Freedom Logistics and Colonial Power Group to help you put that plan forward. We have a plan that we utilize, so there's not a ton of legwork that goes into this for you. Our goal here is to make this as turnkey and as resource limited as possible for the town having to put your own resources forward. So the plan usually takes about 3 months to approve by the PUC. Once the plan gets approved, you have the choice at that point in time to move forward or do nothing. You can sit back and wait for market conditions to improve to get a more favorable rate. All the plan allows you to do once it is approved is you're street legal to move forward. One thing to note about our contract is we do everything upfront and we're paid through the rate that the residents sign up for, or the residents get through the CCA plan. So there's no impact on Little Compton's budget. There's nothing that you owe us. There's never any money that changes hands from Little Compton to us for the program. Our fee, which is 1/10 of a cent per kilowatt hour, gets built into the electricity rate that your ratepayers pay through that program. So I know it's a lot of information coming at you. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Like I said, there's about 13 communities that are already doing this in the state of Rhode Island and over 200 throughout New England. So.
Anybody have any questions?
Well, we got that. Sorry.
So what's a town closest to our size that is using this program?
You get about 2,000 to 3,000 residents. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go up to the mic. No, sorry. So we slide has sort of showed a number of, we serve a lot of the smaller towns out in the Berkshires, out in Western Mass.
Name a town in Rhode Island, please.
Oh, so we currently have one Rhode Island client, that's Westerly.
And the reason for that is that since the legislature just passed this law about 1.5 years ago, it's still a relatively new program for the state of New Hampshire. But proof of concept has been shown. I'm sorry, state of Rhode Island. Proof of concept has been shown in New Hampshire, in Massachusetts, New York, Ohio, all have longstanding aggregation plans.
I have a solar system in my house and it's set up where I directly use the power that comes out of this.
Yep, your surplus.
How will this program?
Yeah, so it would not affect it. So you could participate in the program and you'd still receive, on those occasions, if you're receiving a credit, a bill credit or a payment from Rhode Island Energy, this doesn't impact that. That still moves forward, even if you're enrolled in this program.
So we got a program with Warren where the town, can you explain that to these gentlemen? What goes on with the electricity we get for Warren?
I think that's just for the municipal
Right.
bill.
That's for the community.
They're basically one of the businesses that you're talking about that buys their power from another
Yes.
source. So
Yep, exactly.
we've aggregated with a few other communities as a town, not as the entity of the town.
Yeah, for the town.
Like Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns type of a scenario. Okay, excellent. Yeah, and so that's a good example in terms of where the value add could be for your residents, and that you've decided to aggregate with other towns and cities through the league because there's a savings potential there that you've realized for a number of years. And what we're trying to do is bring that same group buying opportunity, but to the homeowner and the small business who've been, like I said, largely left out of a very beneficial marketplace. So.
Maureen, you had a question?
I just have a question. Does a town that has, say, 90% participation, does the rate change if it's down to 10%? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So what we found through the program is that the participation rate's pretty high. Now, a lot of that has to do with the opt-out mechanism that I mentioned earlier, but you're looking at anywhere from about 90 to 94% participation in terms of the average community. There are scenarios where, occasionally you might see a dip into the high 80% range, but we haven't seen much below 88, 80, 86%. If there is a scenario in which the town moves forward with this, and let's say for whatever reason, 50% of the town decides they want to opt out, there is no change in the rate that you've been offered through the contract. So if let's say that NextEra Energy successfully bids on the contract and they've offered the town 8 cents per kilowatt hour for all of your residents, and 50% of your residents opt out, they're legally bound to uphold that contract. So participation is a risk that they're taking, not the town.
But does the participation in general, does it tend to rise in different towns?
Again, it's pretty steady in terms of the participation rate. And so what the suppliers do when they're going and they're pricing your portfolio and aggregating that load to see what type of prices they're going to get, they're informing that portfolio based upon their experiences in other communities. And that's where they're assuming a 90% participation rate. But if they're wrong about that, they're the ones assuming the legal risk for that and the pricing risk that wouldn't blow back on the town. If you were offered 8 cents per kilowatt hour for your home, regardless of how many people participate, you're still going to get that 8 cents per kilowatt hour for the term that they've signed up for.
Okay, as a follow-up question, if the town council votes to go into this program
Mhm.
and then it's approved,
Yes,
the residents are in, they're not opting in, they can opt out.
they can opt out.
If they don't opt out, they're in. So, man, what happens is if the town council votes for this, you're in.
Oh, I didn't catch that from the president.
You have to opt out.
It's an opt out.
It's an opt out. It's not an opt in.
But one point of clarification for that, just to make you feel a little bit better in terms of how it's presented, is that when you move to Little Compton, for instance, you automatically at that time, before last year, got National Grid, and now it's Rhode Island Energy. So what the plan does is it seeks to change the default supplier for the community from Rhode Island Energy to the Little Compton Community Choice Aggregation. But similar to your experience with Rhode Island Energy, if you want to leave Rhode Island Energy next week, next month, next year, you're free to do that without any termination fees. So it just allows for another choice, another vendor for you at your home. Start with now the Little Compton Community Choice Aggregation Plan, but you might say, hey, I like the gift card I'm being offered by Nextera, or my husband works at Rhode Island Energy, I'd like to stay with them. You'd have the opportunity to do that on your very next monthly meter read without any termination penalties or anything like that. Yes.
What's the term of the agreement? Annual?
So they change. It depends really upon the market conditions of the time. So one of the things that I think is most beneficial to the program is actually the price stability. So savings is a big feature of this, right? Because you're aggregating your purchasing power. But price stability is really, really important. And again, I looked at the last few years and our experiences at our homes. I live over in Portsmouth with the Rhode Island energy rate changing and fluctuating the way it does. 2 years ago in July, you thought your bill was okay, but then you get to December and it's doubled, even though your usage hasn't doubled, right? And that's because the rate doubled from 10 cents to almost 18 cents per kilowatt hour. And that's because through statute and through the Public Utilities Commission regulations, Rhode Island Energy can only go out and buy power for 6-month stretches at a time. We're not beholden by that. So we can go, and if we see an opportunity in a low marketplace, we could lock in for a 3-year term or a 4-year term, and your price would stay exactly the same for that entire period of time. So there's a price stability, budget certainty element to it that's also attractive when compared to what we're able to get through the utility company.
So there's a price stability in the purchasing of electricity, but the delivery fee, that can vary as well.
The delivery fee will still vary, and that's still controlled by Rhode Island Energy. So we're not replacing anything having to do with the delivery of the power, just the cost of the commodity, if that makes sense.
And the taxes and everything that are the same taxes you'd pay on your regular bill?
Everything remains the same. The bill that you get from Rhode Island Energy is still going to say Rhode Island Energy, but where they have the electricity charge, it'll just say Little Compton Community Choice Aggregation supplied by Nextera or BP or Direct Energy.
So Rhode Island is saving energy fee, which is for helping purchase hot water heaters and solar stuff. Does that stay in the state, or does that go wherever you're buying the power from?
The efficiency charge you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would stay on the bill and still be collected by the state. So this just replaces the commodity cost. And like I said, that's, it's about, at any given time, about 50 to 70% of the overall charges that you see on your invoice. 70%, back in 2022. And again, last winter when we saw rates go to 17 cents a kilowatt hour, and about 50% when they came back down as they are now at 10 cents a kilowatt hour.
You wouldn't know what Wesley's paying for a rate right now, do you?
So their plan is still pending at the Rhode Island PUC, and I think we should probably have an update.
Well, next month, we think approval from the
How about in Portsmouth?
Portsmouth is under.
Portsmouth's enrolled to CCA, right?
They are. So Portsmouth is under a plan with one of our competitors. And the way that they structure their process is they stay in line with Rhode Island Energy. And so they've guaranteed the residents to always have a savings. But the problem is if Rhode Island Energy is constantly moving around, you're not getting the budget certainty, the budget stability from that program. So what we do is we don't have the always having a savings guarantee because we want to take advantage of market opportunities. And if the market's low, we advocate for our clients to go for longer term to lock in that budget certainty. But Portsmouth has a program that typically saves around 3 or 4 tenths of a cent per kilowatt hour versus whatever the prevailing Rhode Island energy rate is at that time.
What percentages are a lot of your other clients seeing on their energy bill?
It varies, I would say, not to use recent history as an example of what you should expect. And I give you an example there, city of Boston, we have around, 9 to 10 cents a kilowatt hour in terms of their charge. Well, the utility went to 32 cents a kilowatt hour just back in the winter of 22 into 23. So they were saving significant amounts of money. That was brought about by a lot of the tumult with the war in Ukraine, inflation, everything else going on. I think if you take a look at the AG's report from Massachusetts, they did an analysis of the competitive marketplace of people that were buying on their own versus using community choice aggregations. And the savings in that report for a much longer window of time came about between 8 to 10% in terms of what would be realistic expectations on the program. So an anomaly, 2 years ago with our clients in Boston or Massachusetts, because we had such a massive run up in the marketplace. But 8 to 10% is something that would be much more realistic for the residents of Little Compton to expect over the life of the program.
Okay.
So I'm one of the third party rate purchases. So I'm around 10.4.
Okay.
The only problem I don't like about this is if the town council approves this, everybody's opted in. And they can opt out. But a lot of people aren't going to realize this unless it's notified in the paper. Right? So this town council is telling the rest of the residents of this town, we're opting you into this program, whether you want to or not. And if they don't realize it, they're not going to opt out. Now, you come and say that, yes, it's going to be a saving. Like I say, I use the third party rate payer as I am.
Yep.
So you got to keep on top of that, which I do. But we have an elderly population that says, how can this town council put us into this program? We never agreed to sign up to this. So I think that's something this town council has to take into a decision before we make a decision, see how the town feels about that, or the residents of the town feel about
May I
that.
make a recommendation? I don't know what the proper committee would be. I was kind of thinking the Conservation Commission, but maybe we send this to the Conservation Commission for a recommendation regarding CCA, community choice aggregation, come back to us and see if it might be a right fit for.
I'd like the solicitor to look it over too, because I agree with Gary. It's like you get a Netflix account and you put it on auto pay and then you just don't use it anymore and it's still coming out of your checking account and you're not paying attention. You don't have to be a senior to pull that one. It's the auto in and the manual out, which is concerning.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
If I may, and this doesn't take away from that point. That's point number one, and that's something that the council has to consider. But just to emphasize, just prior to the program launching. So again, let's assume you move forward. Let's assume you sign a contract. We're prepared to do an all-out blitz in terms of trying to do good outreach to consumers to make them aware of the program. And you sort of touched on it yourself, where we always like to have meetings. Community, if you have a senior center in town, that's where we get the most participation. People come, they come with lots of questions, and we'll stay as long as possible to answer all their questions. We may not convince everyone, but we'll make sure that we've given them clear instructions how they want to opt out if they want no part. So
That's a good point. Maybe you should talk to the director of the community center and set up a demonstration, or like you did to us, do the same thing there because a lot of the seniors hang out there. A lot of people are there.
No, we
Library.
no, we welcome that opportunity for sure.
And one other thing to point out too, again, your point is well taken, and that is like the number one pushback that we get about the program is how do people feel about us voting to put them into a program? One thing to point out that's important and critical for that, especially for yourself being on a third-party contract, that anybody that's already buying from someone besides Rhode Island Energy is held harmless from that opt-out feature. They're left exactly where they are, and they're allowed to opt into the program, but they're not put in an opt-out. So for instance, at your home, you would remain with your third-party supplier, and when that contract came due, you could make the choice to opt into the program, but it would not interfere with anybody that had contracts in place at the time of program launch. Just in terms of a kind of an important point to make, because there's going to be a lot of questions surrounding that. So.
And your income is generated by a percentage of the kilowatts that the client uses?
Well, it's based upon adding our fee onto the rate. So let's say that we get a rate, the winning bid is 8 cents per kilowatt hour for residents of Little Compton. We would fix our fee on top of that. So it'd be 8.1 cents per kilowatt hour. The 0.1 being the fee that we affix to our services. So it'd be paid through the program. There'd be no financial responsibility from the town of Little Compton to us directly. It would be like the ratepayers.
Right. And also any customers who wanted no part of the program and opted out, they're not paying it for anything.
Victoria?
Yeah. For as a homeowner, is it easy enough at any time to look at my bill and wonder, well, what would this be if it wasn't coming through the CCA and instead it was coming direct from Rhode Island Energy, and I just call their customer service number and ask that question and they tell me the differential?
Oh, absolutely.
It's simple enough to check, or can you do it online, or how do you, like what you're proposing sounds very attractive to me.
Right.
But it also a little bit sounds like Trust Us will get you the best deal.
Sure.
And you guys are doing a great job selling it. But I just wonder from the customer's standpoint, like how do we know, how do we check in?
Yeah, exactly. So no, thank you. So multiple ways is the answer basically. So for example, throughout the life of the program, if you will, Rhode Island Energy is always going to be publishing on your bill what their rate is on any given time. You'll be able to compare it right on your bill. We would, part of our commitment is to set up a dedicated website where on the website, there's all information about the program, explaining things and so forth, but we're always going to prominently put the Rhode Island Energy rate there in comparison to the program rate at any time. So, and also you can always call Rhode Island Energy and they'd be able to tell you as well.
Or can the homeowner opt in and opt out on that 6-month basis? If your rate is at X and all of a sudden Rhode Island Energy goes to X minus Y, can they opt out and keep opting in and opting out?
They can.
They have the ability to do that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you. So absolutely you can. I mean, so we've been doing this now for about 14, 15 years in other states. And after sort of the initial launch, what we've seen, and it's pretty consistent, is, residents get comfortable with it. They like it. They like the price stability. And even though, they understand they can come in and out, they really don't. They like the stability. They like the comfort of the program.
And so one of I think the most attractive features of the program is similar to when you raised the point about how you're buying third party for Little Compton with a number of other surrounding communities. When you sign that 2 or 3 year contract, and regardless of what the market does, Little Compton has to stay in that contract, whether it's beneficial or not. But because of the way the legislature has structured this program, there can never be any opt-out or early termination fee. So the customer in this case has the opportunity to move in and out where they wouldn't under a normal commercial contract, which is like I said, a nice kind of beneficial feature for the small ratepayer.
Tony, what's our contract? How many years? Warren?
That's
3 years.
it's at least 30 years.
30 years.
That's your solar agreement.
That's a solar agreement. Isn't it 3 years? Our aggregate, the
No.
other communities?
I would say it's probably 3 years or less for your.
Yes.
Yeah, your solar agreement is a different program.
Yes.
So.
3 years.
Somebody in the audience had another question?
Does the metering change?
Nope,
No.
no, everything.
Still, the metering is coming through Rhode Island Energy?
Correct. Yeah. So if you have a power outage or the meter's not working, all of those relationships remain exactly as is. This is really just a paper transaction in terms of trying to find you a lower cost per kilowatt hour and giving you long-term rate stability when appropriate.
Okay, you guys all set?
Yep.
Thank you very much. I guess it's up to us to decide how we want to review this and approach it. I definitely want the solicitor on board to review. But you mentioned the Conservation Commission, maybe?
Yeah, maybe send this to the Conservation Commission and ask for a recommendation to see if CCA is right for our community.
Make the motion.
All right, that's my motion.
And
Including sending this to the solicitor.
I'll second it.
any discussion?
Yeah, can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to send this proposal to the Conservation Commission and ask for a recommendation as to whether or not community choice aggregation is an appropriate program for our community. And also send it to the solicitor for his review.
I'll second
And that's your second. Any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Request from Corporal Catlin Silvera and firefighter Jason De Silva to use Veterans Field on October 26th for the annual trunk or treat event for the community.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Did I get ayes from everyone?
Aye.
Oh, I didn't hear. My hearing aids are working. Request from Council Arate Moore for the council to request a status and balance of Little Compton Housing Trust Fund within the town's fund. Tony, can you address this?
Well, I just want to say, you know, I don't want to get into a discussion about things going on in the finance office, but I just think that there needs to be a process by which the housing trust knows what's coming in and out of the fund, the trust fund. And we just haven't been able to get that number for a while. So I just want to know what the process is, especially when the fees for the building permits are collected and how that works. You know, when are they taking that percentage and putting it into the housing trust fund? And can we get an update every month or so, just so we know what's coming in and out?
Tony, yep.
My suggestion is that we have an in-person meeting.
Okay.
We have two reps from the Housing Trust, Andy and myself, and Dean, because Dean is also involved because that's where he calculates the amount that gets transferred from the permits. And I think I have an email right here that is very confusing. And the numbers all over the place. So I think in order for us to really clean this up, is to come in person meeting and really work it out in the conference room and say, okay, let's take the number. These the numbers, let's put them all in.
Yeah.
And so that ultimately we have one, come up with how we will report it.
Yeah. But do we even have to have that meeting to, I mean, you can go back to 2018 and pull the building permits and see what has been collected since the council instituted the collection of the percentage from the building permits and take that number and see what that's supposed to have been from the beginning. And take out what, and take out what's been withdrawn from that account. So,
Well,
I small it's very confusing. So that's why I think an in-person meeting to really flesh out these numbers and actually go to your point. We need to come up with information from the finance department, for this meeting. So, but I think all of us together.
okay, I'll work with you to
move forward with that. I would say that we should meet next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday.
all right, I'll work with you to.
Party of
Are you gonna
three.
make a motion?
Yeah, Party of three, you, Tony, and the finance.
Yeah.
You want to make a motion that you'll do that? Go ahead.
I don't know if we need a motion, do we?
Well,
Gotcha.
You don't need one.
No.
if you don't need one, if you're willing to do it. Question,
Will the results after your fabulous meeting be reported back to the town council or back at this meeting? So we all know, since you seem to have an issue or a concern, perhaps the rest of us have a concern.
Just for the record here, it's not about money being missing.
No.
It's about where the money is.
That's,
I just want to make that clear.
I got that, but there's a concern.
Well, yeah, we'll.
All right, well then I'll make a motion that I help convene this group of folks from town hall and 2 members of the housing trust.
I'm happy to be on it.
With the
I'm
administrator,
happy to be on it with you. If you need some help,
if you'd like to be,
I would.
and Councilor McHugh.
I'll second the motion.
I'm surprised because I go in for the harbor management. You know, we've got our own fund and I go in there and that's pretty, you know, because we take in the mooring fees and we expend money for moorings and stuff, so,
It's been like 6 months.
okay.
We'll report back out.
Are you seconding the motion? Yep. All right, Carol, could you read back the motion, please? Sorry.
Okay. Councilor Ariati Moore will help convene a meeting that will include himself, Councilor McHugh, the 2 individuals from the finance department, the building official, and the town administrator to review the funds of the Little Compton Housing Trust.
Do you want to amend that to make a report back to the council so we know where it is?
Yeah, we'll make a report back in our,
At a future date?
at a future date.
Future date, because you know how long it's gonna take. So you're amending your motion to that?
Yes.
You're gonna amend your second?
Second.
And we have a question.
Should they possibly be before the next housing trust meeting so that you have a balance for the housing trust meeting?
I'll do my best to put the meeting together.
All right, motion's made, seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Copy of an email from Claire Johnson to the town administrator. Copy to the council wondering if the Lanton's antique lights on the south side of the commons are now repaired and operating. I believe, I'll turn this over to the solicitor, to the administrator. But I believe there's an RFP has to go out to repair these.
Excuse me, that is correct. An assessment has been done of all the lights at Adamsville and at the commons. And I do have a number, but I prefer not to lay it out because of bidding, you know, folks who may be interested in bidding and budgeting process, but we'll be ready to put an RFP together.
So the RFP is going to include the lights in the commons and as well as Adamsville.
Correct, yes. It would include both.
So Claire Johnson emailed me on this. And I emailed the council president. Did you, and you emailed me back, he talked to you and you emailed me back. Did you email?
Yes, I did. I replied to Victoria and Mrs.
Okay. So you got that reply? Okay.
I have a quick question. And will it still come from the ARPA funds as you explained to me earlier? So hopefully it'll, I think for the end of the year, you have to use it. ARPA funds?
Yes. Yeah.
So the action's already been taken, so we don't need a, next, the town council sitting as a board of license commission. Request from Little Compton Historical Society for a Class SC special event, 1-day retail beverage license for September 28th, 2024, for a feast celebration of the launching of the Wampanoag Mission. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Motion to approve with all state and local stipulations.
Nicely done. I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Communications. Request from the Young Family Farm LLC to hold its annual apple picking and music festival on October 12th and 13th with a rain date of October.
He has all the stipulations as far as I can see. Attached to his application, as long as he gets, talks to the chief of police to get his concurrence, I'll make a motion to approve.
Does he need a license? Because of the music?
This is the single day.
Oh, it's the same single day. Okay. Thank you.
Which they have probably budget, maybe more.
Motion on the table. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Request from Tiverton Little Compton Prevention Coalition to use Veterans Field on September 26th from 5:30 to 7 PM for the annual family dinner night with the school.
I will make this motion. I will alert the gentleman here that the gym will be in session for the Ag Trust meeting, so there'll be a few more cars available there. Be doing two different venues. They'll be in the gym, you'll be in the soccer field and the Veterans Field, but just be aware there'll be some more cars there. I don't think it'll be an issue. I've talked with the Recreation Committee and they're aware. I made them aware. It should be fine.
I'll second Councilor McHugh's motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abatement list. No, I apologize. Number 3, request from Carolyn Wilkie Wardell and Michael and Cora Rocha to use Pikes Peak during the month of November 2024 to install 1,000 American flags as well as banners containing the names of veterans who have served our country. They'll be removed in time for the tree lighting. This is just for notice. This is the 3rd year in a row they're doing this.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
My only discussion is, so I'm aware that I don't recall what the last year's motions were. But there was music that was with this. Is there going to be music? I don't see it in here.
They're not, well, let's put it this way. They're not requesting it, so they have to come back and request it if they're gonna.
Okay, so there'll be no music. Okay, I just wanted to make, if I recall, there was music last time. On certain days. That was what I was told. So I just wanted to point it out.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abatement list submitted by the tax assessor for 4 accounts. Clarification on each account.
So I didn't have a chance to talk to the tax assessor about this, but if you read it, it looks pretty self-explanatory, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the abated tax amount of $5,122.01.
Second your motion.
Discussion. Just for the record, I did talk to the tax assessor about this and I learned that FFOS is farm forest and open space.
Right.
I had no idea that's what that was for. Motion's been made and seconded.
Yes, I think she's got FOS. It's supposed to be FFOS because I'm in that program myself. Like she does have FFOS.
Motion's made and seconded. Any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
The consent calendar.
Motion to place a consent calendar on file.
Second.
Discussion. Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Payment of bills.
Motion to pay the bill.
Second.
Discussion. Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Being no other business before the council this evening, I declare the meeting adjourned.